I'm Nick Hernandez, and you're listening to the Positivity Matters podcast. On this show, we talk about well being from every direction that you can imagine. Today, I have a musician, a scholar on the show. There's an event coming up in Lincoln, Nebraska at the Sheldon Museum of Art. Darci Gamerl is my guest. She's one half of Bel Canto Duo. My understanding is you created a documentary about sandhill cranes and you do the score for the documentary live. Is that's what's happening?
Yeah, basically, we partnered with a number of community organizations across Nebraska to create the documentary. The main one being the Crane Trust in Wood River, and we put together the film and the music in a neuroarts informed way. So there is a traditional film um, that is being screened at different festivals right now, but then we also do a live film score version. Um, I think when you share art in a live format like that, it becomes its own kind of creative, living, breathing entity. And so we found that it's super impactful, and we're looking forward to sharing that with the Lincoln community.
I heard this phrase neuro arts. What is that?
Basically, it is the idea that art can be used as medicine, and many of us have heard music as medicine. The Nebraska medicine system uses that, but essentially, it can be used in any sort of field. So there is neuroarts informed architecture. I use it in my film design, and then we also use it in our music composition. And specifically within music composition, it is the measuring of brainwaves in real time and the use of repetitive rhythms induced entrainment, which is a synchronization between your brainwaves and the rhythm of the music. And that then lowers your brainwaves, which usually improves your physical and mental health outcomes. So in our work with a team of neurologists at the University of Kansas Medical Center, and this is specifically studying tinnitus, which is ringing in the ears, we have found that not only do the studied patients receive relief from the music, the live performance, but they also receive relief when recalling that performance after the fact. So essentially, music does act as medicine. Tinnitus in particular, the symptoms are linked to stress. So if you have increased stress levels, it can make your symptoms much worse. People often refer to them even as attacks. So we've also had experiences with audience members who've had relief from migraines with our music. So it is also in other fields used to create a sense of well-being. For example, the new Walton Medical Center in Arkansas, they used a neuroarts-informed approach to the architecture of the space to make it more welcoming and calming for people. So it's an emerging field, but it's really fascinating to see. Right now, we're looking at embarking on a formal study, funding pending, of course, for the study with KUMC neurologists to dive into that. But those are the at least initial findings from the work that we're doing, which is fascinating.
How did you encounter this this idea of neuro arts?
I was doing a study or a certification in healing music in 2022, and I realized that my husband and partner in Bel Canto Duo, his looping station lent itself perfectly to the whole idea of entrainment and healing music. And so we started exploring that in our commissioned work. And he had seen different people on the street. He does a lot of street busking. And so he had observed a lot of people that were visibly mentally in crisis. and living on the streets quite often, and how they would come and listen and calm down uh, when he was playing. And so he had those kinds of experiences. And then when we put the science with it, it all added up. And so that's something that we've actively pursued in our compositions since then. So that's kind of how it all started. So I came across an article written by Dr. Rebecca Lepping, who's at KUMC, and she's a classically trained musician and was specifically studying the effects of music on different patients. And so we met with her, kind of talked a little bit about what we were doing, and then she connected us with two other members of her department, Dr. Lauren Mann and then Ki Liao. They are both neurologists that are doing research, and Dr. Lauren Mann is the one that's doing tinnitus research in particular.
Very cool. You can follow along for free at www.viacharacter.org. And there's 24 different strengths, psychological strengths, patterns of thought, feeling, and behavior. What this survey does is it looks at these psychological strengths from several perspectives, like what brings you joy? What do you find most interesting? What do you find most meaningful? How many goals could be generated from a value like be curious or be creative? I would venture to say it's near infinite. Thank you for playing along. You're a
Of
winner
course.
and have honesty, spirituality, judgment or open mindedness, curiosity, and perspective as top strength. What do you think about those strengths?
Well, I found it interesting that I had three that fell within like the wisdom side of things, or that are categorized underneath that. Um, I am definitely of the mindset that life is infinitely more interesting if you're really are open to new things and new ideas, and that lifelong learning approach that makes, I don't know, makes things come alive. And I think that that's something that I've pursued in my work with neuroarts, finding something different and new. My top one being honesty. I found that interesting because I am definitely that friend that will like give you the things that nobody will tell you, but that you need to hear, that kind of thing. Which sometimes, depending on how receptive people are, can go over better than others. But I feel like that has served me well in my relationships with other people and also in the creation of art. I think that there has to be an authenticity and a real, I don't know, kind of altruism to what you're creating. Otherwise, it just doesn't resonate with people. Integrity is really key, and like having your values and what you're doing, and to me also how you do things is of utmost importance. And David Downing, my partner in Bel Canto Duo, and I talk about this a lot. um, it's not about achieving the goal per se, although that is important. It's about how you do it. And we're also married, so we carry that into our personal life as well. The importance of how you build those relationships. Or like I tell, our kids, like, this is important. You need to treat each other well because you're not going to be best friends when you grow up if you treat each other terribly. These kinds of things. So you're building, um, hopefully, a solid foundation that has a really good grounding in what you do. And I do feel like that carries through into the music that we create as well.
Beautiful. How did you meet?
Oh, it's an interesting story, actually. um, I was separated, living in my basement, or as they say, engaged to be divorced. And a friend invited me to an open mic. I had to finish a gig. It was December 14th, 2016, and I had was driving back from my gig to drop off my instruments. It was like minus 15. It was very cold, windy Nebraska night, and I saw the shooting star, and it went on forever. I was like, whoa, something's going to happen tonight. I don't know what. Went and dropped off my instruments, and I went to this open mic, and my friends were there, my friend and her husband, and they were like, oh, here's David Downing, and it was like, so nice to meet you. And he played, and I was completely blown away. I'd never heard anything like that in my life. It was really phenomenal to watch and to experience. And they introduced us, and then they left. And so uh, we talked for the rest of the night, and the rest, as they say, is history. We've been married almost 3 years, together almost 10. So,
Beautiful. Did you have him
yeah.
take the strength finder by chance?
I haven't had him do it yet, but I will definitely have him do it. I think it's kind of fun. I've thought about having our girls do it as well, just to see. I think it gives you a lot of insight about who you are. I'd done the Clifton Strengths Finder as well years and years ago, and so it really gives you a lot of insight as to kind of what is really important to you and how you operate. It's invaluable.
Now, I heard you mention Bentonville, Arkansas. What's
Hmm.
I'm guessing you've been, and what's going on in Bentonville?
Well, there's a lot actually. It's the home of Walmart, pretty much. So that is a whole entity unto itself. But some of the work that they're doing is interesting. I mean, there's the Crystal Bridges Art Museum. There's this new medical school that the Walton family, the creators or owners of Walmart, have opened. And the approach is much different than the traditional medical school because it's holistic. So, this idea of neuro arts, of different modalities that facilitate healing are being embraced. And I'm seeing that more in Nebraska as well. The new cancer center that's on the south side of Lincoln is very similar. There's a meditation room, there are yoga classes, there's sound baths. I mean, because now that we have the imaging technology where we can actually measure changes in brain waves, which equal specific health outcomes, I think that it's less woo woo, as they say, and because the science is behind it. So now we can see this is exactly how your brain is impacted, either as a performer or as a listener of music, and or even art or architecture in a space. How does it make you feel? And that really translates into health outcomes.
What's the greatest generosity, the greatest act of kindness that you've received?
I think our most valuable asset is time, and so the the mentors that I have had are the ones that have taken the time to get to know me, get to know what my goals are, and then to kind of foster that. And we've talked a little bit about this in terms of that mentorship that is so important and also influential in the lives of so many people. And it just takes that one person to spend the time with you and to care enough to ask how you're doing and actually want to hear the answer. So for me, one person that comes to mind is Peggy Michael. She was one of my teachers in Chicago. And I've had a number of wonderful teachers, but in particular, she was very influential as a woman in working professionally in the field of orchestral playing and musicianship. She was very open also to other pathways of success. And that can be defined in so many different ways, right? Um, but I think she was a great example to me and also just a wonderful friend over the years. So I'm grateful for that.
When do you feel most playful?
For me, I think I feel most playful when I am improvising. And uh, I did different jazz improv, but I feel like, and did jazz for a time, which is not very traditional for most oboe players, but I wanted to explore different ways of expressing myself, different musical styles. And um, I feel like with bel canto duo, we both are classically trained in the conservatory system, but then ended up moving into broader forms of expression. So what we write is almost like jazz in format. So there's the head of the tune, and then we have a middle section, and then we come back to the end. And usually in that middle section, we have solos, but it's not done in the traditional jazz way. It's a conversation. So we play together simultaneously. Sometimes one of us will drop out and then hop back in. And it is within those moments of improvisation where that conversation gets really, really interesting. And the result in terms of what we end up creating, I think, is infinitely more interesting than something that I would notate on a page and that we then recreate.
You were telling me before the show that you're in an interesting place right now. Tell us about that, if you can.
Yeah, so right now we are in residence at Chesterwood, which is the home of the sculptor Daniel Chester French. And this is our second summer here doing a residency. We did a performance last night with a preview of a new documentary that we're working on called The Making of a Master. And it's this idea of how life presents opportunities and then how we capitalize on them or not, and hopefully inspiring people to to step into those opportunities that life gives you. In the case of Daniel Chester French, the sculptor of the Lincoln Memorial, few know his name, but everybody knows the Lincoln Memorial. He was given the commission for the Minuteman in Concord, Mass, when he was in his early 20s and was not trained formally at all at that time. So he could have turned it down. His teacher, Louisa May Alcott's sister Mary, was the one that saw the potential in him and recommended him for the commission. And thankfully, he accepted it. Then he went to Europe and studied in Italy for 2 years and then came back and continued his career, literally changing the landscape of America. Yet so few have heard of this person, really a national treasure in many ways. So yeah, we did the preview. We also did the live film score version of Taking Flight, which will be at the Sheldon at the end of the month. And it's kind of become a second home for us here. Everybody at
Mm.
Chesterwood is just amazing. So if you are out in this area of Western Massachusetts, I would highly recommend visiting. His home and studio is here. The studio was built by Henry Bacon, and he collaborated with Henry Bacon on over 50 projects. So this idea of creating within an artistic vacuum, if you look at the great artists, they all had different collaboratives that they continued to revisit throughout their careers, and that's something that we also try to model in our partnerships, that they're number one intentional with people that have similar goals, but then also, you know, operating outside of an insular kind of environment is conducive to a much more interesting and I don't know, multifaceted result creatively.
I don't know about you, but I always say yes to bacon.
Yep.
If I was playing video, listeners, you would realize that this is the absolute truth. Okay. Now, okay, so it sounds like this idea of neuro arts and maybe did it change the kind of music that you did, or did it just add another layer of creative expression?
I think for David's writing and his looping station, it didn't change a whole lot. Um, the way that I I write at the piano, and so it tends to be a little bit more traditional and academic in approach. So what we found works best for us when we're writing collaboratively is for David to write that bass, right, with the looping station, and he has parts that he develops. He writes by ear, so through repetition, I listen to what he's doing, come up with parts in my head, essentially, and then add those to the creative process. And then I'll usually write them out or notate them on sheet music so that we have kind of a basis. But then there are times, like I said, where we'll improv over top of those changes. So most importantly, I think what the neuro arts aspect and the healing music certification did was really cement the resolve that we had to create and perform our own music because of the way that it impacted people, because of the way that people told us it made them feel.
Mm.
So whether it be relief from physical symptoms like a migraine or something like that, or somebody coming up to us and saying, hey, I could feel my husband, he passed a couple years ago, but he was here with me tonight. Those sorts of things, and that mission that we have to be of service is really kind of where that really clarified our mission and
Mm.
what we continue to create.
Um, Looking forward, um, uh, I don't. This is purely imagination, and I have no connections with private foundations. But you get the, I don't know, $5 million grant. What do you do?
Essentially, what I would envision is a series of places, spaces that people can enjoy for free. Let's just call them a Zen den. We can call them whatever we want, I guess. But the idea of creating accessibility for people, because there are so few safety nets in our country for people that have physical, mental health issues. I mean, healthcare, insurance, it's a nightmare for so many people. And I think being able to offer a series of different things across the country for people where we can in real time show how their health is being positively impacted is going to be huge. So that's kind of what I envision. And I think the tech is pretty close, but being
Mm.
able to offer that in as many communities as possible, or possibly in a touring version, would be just amazing. And there's something that I noticed after COVID where people consume art in a very different way if there are multiple senses that are being engaged. So that's why we kind of got into the visual component or side of things
Mm.
with our Willa Cather Commission. And this was something that we explored just so that people had the text that they could read live without having to try and read something that was printed on paper in the dark. And it was so impactful for people. We've continued to expand that side of things with our live score documentaries.
Mm. Tell me more. I'm trying to envision live score documentary. Is that the term you used?
Yeah, yeah. So basically, you know, the Taking Flight, the Eighth Wonder of the World was premiered last October in Omaha, Nebraska, as the Cathedral Arts Project with a live film score. So the idea was that we would show the film at the same time and then perform live to it. And that's something that we've continued to do and will also moving forward with the new documentary, The Making of a Master. As yet unreleased, we just developed a special preview for a visit here at Chesterwood. But again, people find different things to take away from it, and that's something that we do. We kind of just facilitate the experience and hold the space, and then it's fascinating to see what people take from it. And it's very personal, right? Depending on where you're coming from that day, you know, maybe what you're going through in your life. And that's the thing that really just makes what we do so worthwhile. And we've heard this repeatedly. People um, say, you know, your music spoke to my soul. We just did a show in Iceland when we were at a residency, and there was a couple from Poland. They said it was soul changing. So those sorts of things, they're really motivating to continue what we're doing. You know, like that serendipitous kind of feeling.
Beautiful. Sounds pretty amazing. What's to come? So, when you were saying it's almost here of showing how health is being improved potentially in real time, are we talking like we've got a some kind of a medical imaging device attached to you while you're performing, and we're watching like your the two of you's brainwaves like sync up with, I believe the term you used was entrainment, or is there something else coming? Maybe.
Well, there is that side of it, and the technology is here. But what I want to do is show using EEG headsets to show the audience experience in real time and how that entrainment happens, how the brain waves lower, and then as a result, you know, how that impacts them moving forward in terms of their physical and mental health. Even last night after their performance, you know, people were sharing how they felt much more relaxed. One of the audience members said, you know, it made me want to go and meditate. And I don't meditate, he said. So it just took him to a different space mentally. And yeah, so being able to demonstrate that in real time in a sensory friendly way. I'm somebody that definitely gets overwhelmed on a sensory level pretty easily. So being able to do that in a way that is that isn't going to trigger someone, whether it be like a migraine or something like that, you know, having it be sensory friendly is super important as well.
Very cool. Was Cather the first thing with the neuro arts?
The first collaborative composition that we did with NeuroArts was the Gallery 1516 Commission for Nebraska Flatwater. It was a documentary, and we wrote a work called Sacred Waters, that is the translation of the Native American word for the Platte River. And that's when we realized that what we were able to create together collaboratively was so much more impactful, both for us as artists, but also to the audience. That just resonated. And so we've just kind of continued to pull that thread, or as I like to say, cause good trouble.
I feel like I'm a part of that tribe.
Absolutely.
Were there phrases that like particularly resonated for him?
I don't know if he was particularly political or outspoken politically with his affiliations. He was a great supporter of the arts and of artists, music in particular, but also sculptors. He was a mentor. However, at the Nebraska State Capitol building with the Gettysburg Lincoln, I mean, that stands behind the standing Lincoln that is there. And there's a small replica of it here on the grounds at Chesterwood. So I do think that there was, you know, some awareness there, but I'm not sure how outspoken he was politically.
Or yeah,
Oftentimes when
even
you,
not politically, just in terms of that like idea of maybe like core values. Did it seem like he maybe was drawing some from Lincoln? Or I mean, I I see people like that, like Martin Luther King Jr. Like their quotes just kind of hit you and they resonate and stick. Maybe or is there anything from him, any words from him that like resonated for you, uh, or anything, or like just the description of the vibe that like what is it about him?
well, I think a common thread between Daniel Chester French and Lincoln is this kind of steadfastness and resoluteness. Um, that they both had and I carried forward. I feel like, you know, whether or not it was popular, and I was talking with an audience member last night after the performance about this, you know, in the Gettysburg Address, Lincoln talks about how the world will little remember what was said here today. Well, the fact of the matter is, it has resonated since that moment and continues to, I think, as we move forward in this nation. But also the sculpture itself. The Lincoln Memorial can be seen from space. So these things that maybe we think aren't going to carry much weight or impact moving forward, we never know how they're going to resonate with people, how they're going to impact and influence people in the future. Um, and I think that's the commonality between both of them.
I'm seeing the picture here in Red Cloud. Do you choose different instruments? Like I'm thinking that I'm seeing an English horn here. Is that what's going on?
Yeah, so that's actually a really special instrument. It's a Laban English horn. It's made out of cocobolo. Laban was an American maker. They're still around, but the ownership has changed. Anyways, it's known as the red English horn because, very much like the red violin, the maker cut himself very badly when he was lathing the instrument because it's a notoriously difficult wood to work with. So yeah, it's kind of my spirit instrument. It's a little more mellow than the oboe, although I do perform on both with bel canto duo. And then David's cello. It's made by Kreutz in Kansas City. It's a beautiful instrument. I joke, but it's very true. David has definitely ruined all cellists for me. He's a gorgeous player. I love being able to work together.
That's cool. Looping and the cello.
Yeah.
That sounds like a good combination.
Well, and it's an interesting story. So he had gone to the Cleveland Institute of Music, and afterwards, he quit playing for a while because he didn't want to do orchestral playing or, kind of replicate old dead white men's music.
Hmm.
And so he quit, and then a guitar player friend of his uh, inspired him to start experimenting with a looping station. Because essentially that's mostly who uses that, and it created a whole new form of expression for him, and he started writing, and yeah, it's been amazing to see what he's been able to create. It's like a whole universe of sound that he's able to layer.
That is awesome. Two creative spirits around the neuro arts themes from What's at Hand, Willa Cather, kind of awesome. Lincoln, kind of awesome. The sculptor sounds like he's pretty awesome. Is there an upper limit of awesomeness?
I think only if we limit ourselves, right? Like, just keep exploring, keep discovering, see what happens.
Wonderful. If people want to find out more about your work, where do we send them?
Belcantoduo.com is our website. We also have social media on Instagram and Facebook. You can follow along there. If you want to support us, check out our merch store or our Bandcamp page as well. We try to be a little bit more grassroots and all of that. So
And if people want to find out about the neuro arts, and this is all one word, Neuroarts, certainly Google. Are there some kind of directions to focus on? I believe is it Aspen Institute and Johns Hopkins.
I would check out the Neuro Arts Blueprint. They're the kind of national organization where a lot of people register. I don't know that there's anybody else that is working within neuro arts in Nebraska, but regionally there are more practitioners like in the Kansas City area.
And if you're a researcher or if you're a musician, do you just go listen to music or go watch brain scans and then ask them if they want to be in neuro arts with you?
If people are interested in collaborating, certainly reach out via our website, belcantoduo.com. But basically, um, there's no standardized certification for healing music, although there is an organization called NOAA that does some of that. Um, but yeah, if you're interested in collaborating, we're always open to that, whether it be working within different disciplines with scientists, with researchers. Um, any sort of collaboration, I think, is always of interest to us because we are so much greater outside of ourselves. You and I were talking earlier about kind of getting stuck in your own head, you know, so being able to strengthen the fabric of connections that you have, personally and professionally, is always beneficial, and it's something that's really helped us to grow. On the mentorship side of things, the other thing that I'm very passionate about is kind of recreating what a successful career in the arts looks like for people. And part of it ties into, you know, the mindset that we have as artists that is very kind of subsistence based. So saying yes to everything, you know, maybe taking less of a fee than you would otherwise just because it's potential income. It's really, really important to me, and I think to us as artists, as an artistic community, and even outside of the arts and whatever you do, to be able to make a good living at what you do and to have, as a result, a different way of existing. And I think that being cared for, being supported in a community is really something that makes a huge difference in everyone's life. So for young musicians out there, if you are in need of mentoring or have questions, I am here as a resource to try and help, maybe give some tools, to share some knowledge, even if it's outside of the career of music, because it's something that's super important. A friend and colleague who's in the music industry on the booking side of things shared the difference between international artists that are in communities where they are supported and they're not worried about surviving versus what they see in North America. And the type of art that results is very, very different. So if we can create a space that is supportive of artists, of creatives, because now we're starting to see it's not just something that is an elective, that's fun, that is, you know, something to fill your schedule or to even do on the side that isn't considered a legitimate field or career path. It's something that is essential, that provides real tangible benefit for people. So I think we need to start viewing it differently as a society, as a whole, as a country. This is something that is crucial and essential for physical and mental well-being and health, either as a practitioner, as an artist, or as somebody that is taking that in. And how we as a society as a whole can support that, I think, is really going to transform our educational system, our art, our country, and it's from a very grassroots level.
Are there any shots of cranes at play in the documentary?
Yes. Yeah. Actually, there's
Sweet.
one. It's a song called Breathe that we wrote, and it opens with this beautiful shot of the cranes at sunrise, and this crane is like hopping with the music and just like, you know, kind of being playful. And then they kind of calm down and it goes into this other thing. But there's also another section that we call Earth Dance 2, and it's this baby whooping crane with its parents, and they're just kind of walking in time with this kind of playful music. And at the very end of the scene, the baby crane decides that he doesn't like this other pair of whooping cranes, and so he like goes after them even though he's like half as tall as the other cranes. It's really comical, I think, but yeah.
Mm.
The recording, our CD titled Taking Flight, has been released, so it's on all the major platforms.
I'm so excited.
That's
Thank
awesome.
you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.